Hello, and welcome back to Talking Shop, a series of fun conversations with consummate concert artists, composers, opera singers, and choreographers. Today, I'm very privileged to have Emily Monroe. Emily is a section violinist with the Richmond Symphony. She is also an active chamber musician, having performed with the Central Music Society of Central Virginia, the Washington National Cathedral, and Three Notched Road, and she recently became artistic director of the Richmond Chamber Players, a wonderful group I was very privileged to perform with recently. Welcome, Emily. We're so glad we could do this today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm going to start out like I always do with all my guests. I love this question, and so I want to see what you have to say about this. What does being a concert symphony chamber violinist mean to you personally?
I think for me, it's fulfilling, a childhood dream and living a reality that I didn't even know might be possible. As you're growing up, I've loved music since a young age, but I never, thought that I would get to do it as a career. I thought it was just something, a passion, something I love to do. So, really, it's to me having the privilege to be in a career that I love and that is such a part of me. Um, I mean, there are so many facets to music. Um, you know, There's the psychological part, there's the creative aspect, obviously. There's the kind of scientific approach, in what we do in the practice room and how we solve problems. And so it's being a violinist is like approaching life from a very unique standpoint, I think, and being able to tell stories um in a way that's really special. So, yeah.
What a beautifully robust answer. I love that. So I want to come back to some of what you said, but I want to go back a little bit and ask you how your interest in the violin emerged and evolved. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you started playing as a child. What got you interested in the violin other than piano or something else? What's the story of your life's journey with the violin?
Yeah, so I began taking lessons when I was about 5 years old. And it was really because I saw that my older sister, who's 5 years older than me, she had taken violin lessons. And so my mom and I would go and sit in a little bit at the end. And her teacher was very nice, friendly. And I just was gravitating towards the sound too when she would practice at home. So I began lessons, and that was Ning Zhao, who's a violist in the Charlotte Symphony, but he was trained in violin. And so really it was just a hobby. But I joined the Charlotte Youth Orchestra. It was where I auditioned for the youth symphony when I was 9. So by the time I was 10, I was able to be in this orchestral setting, which was very exciting to me. And I got to do chamber music camps over the summer. So from a quite young age, I was able to be in environments with other young musicians, which really informed my education, I think, because it wasn't just this isolated thing where I was in the practice room by myself.
Yeah.
And then when I was 13, I auditioned for University of North Carolina School of the Arts for their high school program. And I was able to study there for 4 years with Kevin Lawrence. And that was an incredible experience. Probably the most formative and educational aspects of my whole, violin career. And that was really where I realized I could take it to a professional level if I wanted to. That was where I was really inspired. It was great because in that program, there's the high school program, and then UNCSA goes all the way up to postdoc.
Mhm.
So in my studio, I was seeing these master's students perform, and I was playing next to them in orchestra, and I was just really in awe. I mean, I still remember uh, a student's Tchaikovsky concerto in studio class that he had been preparing for grad school auditions, and he would play it almost every week, but I was just amazed. Um, and it really, I mean, my teacher there, Kevin Lawrence, taught me so much. I learned so much. But sorry, I feel like I'm rambling.
No, no, no. That's what this is for. This is exactly what this is exactly what we're here for, is to find
Yeah.
out more about you and to hear about your journey and just get to know you better. So that's wonderful. I just think it's so amazing that you had these incredible experiences at such a young age, and also that you knew at such a young age that you could actually do this. I think that's a big, big deal. I think being that age and knowing, I mean, I can relate to that because I was that age and I thought, I've got the voice for this. I can do this. I can go after this and make something happen. And I think that's just an incredible feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I was also full of, doubts, which I think is the life of an artist.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and there's a lot of, I mean, there's sort of those growing pains,
sure.
of these are the concertos you need to learn. These are the Bach sonatas and partitas you need to memorize, and
Yeah,
this is the technique you need. So it really instilled discipline and a mindset where, you know, it's not, there's this part of you, it involves the heart, but then it's like your brain.
yeah.
It's really mental, and there's a lot to learn, and you have to put in the hours. So I think that in high school it conditioned me to realize you've got to put everything in, you've got to give it your all, because you know it's not, although there are naturally talented musicians, I think a lot of the people don't realize the work that goes on behind the scenes.
Absolutely, and I agree. Even the most talented people have to put in the work and do that constantly. And I just I feel, though, even though you recognize the challenges that were in front of you, I feel that knowing that this is something you can do also gives you a confidence. I guess gives you the confidence to have the drive and the commitment to follow the discipline and to actually enjoy the discipline. I
For
think
sure.
there's this line that artists cross over where it goes beyond a childhood thing that we're doing and becomes real. And as you said in your opening comment, a real way of life. It's a possibility. It's a path forward, which I think is wonderful. I'm gonna stray just a little bit, and you were talking about auditioning. The big question, that everybody has: what advice do you have for people auditioning, especially for symphony? Because that's quite a rigorous audition, and there's so much debate about, the
Tactics and
blind and the curtain or whatever you're behind, and
yeah.
wearing heels or not, and all these kind of things. Yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you feel empowered when you wear heels and you play your best when you're wearing heels, then go for it, I guess.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I would say, and this is so interesting because I now have the perspective of sitting on the other side of the screen where I've listened to a few auditions now, and that's very informative. But I would say probably the biggest piece of advice I would give to someone auditioning is recording. Record yourself when you are preparing for this audition. Record yourself because I mean, that's how you know. That's how you'll get feedback. And I think recording practice during a practice session can be a little daunting. And it's not what you want to do because you want to just go by what you're hearing, but under your ear. But when you do that, sometimes the sound you're hearing is imagined.
Yes, I can
um,
certainly relate to that too.
right. So it gives you the perspective of this is what the person on the other side of the screen is hearing. And when you watch a performance, a live concert, there are so many other things happening. I mean, you're looking at the person performing, you're feeling the energy. It's just a completely different experience. It's an isolated, moment in time. Here is this excerpt from a symphony, and and are you, you know, are you presenting it? You don't want it to be an etude, like an etude. You don't want it to be flat. You're trying to still infuse all of that musicality. Let's say it's Mozart 39, and you want to make it bubbly and lively and, Mozartian. um,
Exactly.
and then the next excerpt is, from a Brahms symphony, and you're playing very quietly and slowly. And so it's having the contrast between all of the excerpts and hitting the basics, though. So intonation and rhythm. That's when you're in a situation like that, that's quite bizarre. You're just standing there, all you see is a screen, curtains, and is silence, and you're in a big empty hall on a stage, an empty stage. It's quite bizarre. So
Yeah, yeah.
mentally preparing yourself for that, and then also knowing that you're playing at your highest level through recording yourself and really working on those basics of intonation
Hmm.
and rhythm. And at the
Hmm.
end of the day, auditions are subjective.
Yeah.
So, you could do all of those things, and someone else's tone could be preferred by more people on the committee. Some people could feel that one person responded better to, feedback if they're asked to play something again, and they feel that they didn't respond as, drastically as they wish they had.
Yeah.
Um, there are so many nuances, and it's such a tricky thing. So I would say don't worry about other people. Just put in the work, be happy with where you're at, and be yourself. And that's really all you can do.
Yeah.
It's it's just such a hard thing.
It is a hard thing because and I'm thinking about what you said about recording, my own experience with recording, and I've had severe issues with performance anxiety, which thanks to method acting, I've really learned to manage quite well, finally, after trying a lot of different things. But I
Mhm.
just remember early on, when I was experiencing more of that, recording seemingly was not my friend. It would remind me of all, the mistakes I was making, and I really hated doing it. But I found since I've been able to become more confident and secure that it really is tremendously helpful. Do you have any comment about, when it's good to record, when it's not good to record, that kind
Yeah,
of thing?
I would say, and I totally understand where you're coming from. I mean, one with the performance anxiety, and two with, yeah, just kind of dreading turning on, pressing the record button. Um, I think that, looking at it as experimentation and rather than a judgmental place can really be helpful because I can, let's say I'm playing an excerpt and I record it at the beginning of the session just to see, well, where is this at? And
Hmm.
then I can listen to it and think, okay, my intonation in these measures is really bad. The rhythm is not steady here. And where are any of the dynamics I thought I was playing? you know?
Oh, I really can relate to that, because I would be thinking I was doing all these wonderful dynamics, and everybody said, well, we'd like to hear more dynamics. And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Right.
But I think recording and having recently become a recording artist as well, I think going to a studio, when you get to a point and going to a studio just for the experience and doing a recording in a studio is a great practice, for an audition, possibly. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Because you're putting yourself in a situation
right.
where, you know, there's the added pressure
Hmm.
and you are performing and
Hmm.
you can't stop.
No, you can't stop. And I think one thing I have found really valuable about, doing recordings for my streaming is I have the experience to play around with it. You can do multiple takes. So I understand, so sometimes I think I used to perform and I think, oh, if I could just do that one more time. Well, you can in a recording studio. And I
Mhm.
think if you do that, and just, sign up for an hour or something, it doesn't have to cost an astronomical amount of money. But if you can just have that experience and be able to say, okay, I can do better with this, I can do better this, and then do it again. Then by the time you come to your audition, you're pretty comfortable in that space. I think that's a really good, and I wish I had started doing that, even before. Um, One other question I wanted to ask you, and then we'll go on to something else. As far as individual expression during
Mhm.
an audition, I know you're looking for certain things in symphony players.
Mhm.
How much can people give? How much individual interpretation is okay, in that kind of setting?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, this is, I'm sure you would have different answers from different people, but I think it depends where you are in the stages of the audition.
Hmm.
In my personal opinion, in the preliminaries, you're really trying to display the fact that you are a solid player.
Yeah,
So I can play Don Juan, I can play Mendelssohn, Midsummer Night's Dream. I can play these things cleanly and accurately. Um, and of course, following what's on the page. And then I feel in the semis and finals, you should, and not that you're playing robotically either, but it's kind of just making sure you're in the box,
right,
of
right.
what is acceptable.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I mean, another point is that you have your solo,
Right.
solo exposition to really show your
Okay.
personality and character.
Yeah,
So I would say really make that your own, make that
yeah,
very unique. And then uh, you can uh, you can infuse personality, but really that just means taking what's on the page and bringing it to another level.
yeah,
Because a lot of times, like I said with recording, you think that you are making these drastic dynamic changes and things, and they're not
yeah,
really
yeah,
happening. So, I mean, another point I just want to emphasize is they're, as far as I know, not looking for perfection. I mean, from my experience, from playing and listening to auditions, um, perfection is not the goal.
It's
So if
comforting.
you do take a risk and really go for, let's say you're making a crescendo and you really go for that top note and it doesn't, you don't quite hit it, but at the same time, people on the panel are going to appreciate that you did, you know, follow that marking.
Yeah,
Given it just can't happen over and over again.
right. Yes.
So
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah, yeah,
if there's one flub, they one or two, it really doesn't matter. But it's when it's when it builds up. It's when it's consistently they rush, they're out of tune.
yeah,
It. So I think definitely bring your playing, bring your perspective, and there's kind of no way to not do that. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Hopefully. Yeah.
So I think have fun with it as much as you can.
Yeah,
Really do think about the musical aspect of it rather than you're trying to impress somebody on the other side, because I promise you there's no way you're going to impress every single person. Like, I think that would be very, very hard. I mean, just in general in life, you can't please everybody. And it's the same way
exactly.
with an audition,
Yeah.
but you can still win that audition.
Yeah, yeah. And I think every audition is also a great experience.
Definitely.
And two, really focusing on the music, even if you are slightly off on your intonation or you miss a note on the piano or whatever audition you're doing. Um, if you're making the listener feel what you're trying to convey, that to me can make up for a sin or two. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Really.
yeah. Okay, you're not only a symphony violinist, you perform with a variety of chamber groups, and I'd love for you to tell us. You also perform with a baroque ensemble. I think is that Three Notch Strode? Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about what differentiates playing in these varied ensembles, particularly the baroque, rather than just your, I guess,
Traditional
normal chant,
symphony.
traditional. Yes, that's a better
Yeah.
word. Thank you.
Oh no. It's I mean, I'm so glad that I was introduced to Baroque music, first of all. So I began taking Baroque violin lessons my sophomore year of college. And Maria Romero, she's an amazing Baroque violinist. She had just finished earning her doctorate from University of Indiana, and she just really opened this whole new world to me of Baroque playing, and it's so exciting. So, Baroque violin and ensembles. I mean, one of the biggest differences is the fact that we're playing on gut wound strings. So the strings don't have as much tension also on the fingerboard because the fingerboard's at a slightly different angle. And the bridge is a bit shorter, or is it a bit taller?
So you're playing on period instruments, is what you're telling
You're
me.
playing on period instruments,
Yeah,
and so there are physical differences
yeah.
in the actual instruments themselves that create a different tone, and
Hmm.
the way that you go about playing them is much different than how you would approach picking up a modern violin. And I mean, not even to mention the bow, the
Yeah.
fact that, we're going from this to this. So the way
Ah,
the bow is even shaped is different. Um, which creates a slightly warmer sound, slightly, it's not as powerful as the
yeah.
modern violin, but in these ensembles, it's just really great because they're usually a little bit smaller, and you don't get all of the bells and whistles with the winds and brass all the time.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know um but it is, I don't, I mean, and the tuning, because we tune at 415 rather.
Ah.
the
Ah,
traditional
that can
fourth
make a big
chord.
difference.
So that
Yeah.
makes a huge difference actually. And if you have perfect pitch, that is why some people actually cannot play baroque
Yeah. Yeah.
instruments because they can't get over the fact that when when they're playing a note, it sounds like a half step lower than the
Yeah.
note
Yeah.
you're used to hearing. So there's just all these little quirks and oddities, and it is like a whole different instrument, just how you
Yeah.
approach it. So that was really what appealed to me was learning how to go about playing a whole different, kind of violin.
Yeah. And I would think, even if you don't have perfect pitch, we're so accustomed to playing at 440,
Right.
and that's bound to tend to throw you off at first. It's got to be some period of acclimation there. And are there maybe one or two techniques you could explain have to be adjusted when you're playing a Baroque instrument?
Right. So, well, for us violinists, it's really in the bow, how you approach. You can't really just, it's an uneven sound. It's not weighted equally, so it's heavier at the frog, and so you can. It's more like you're pulling the sound out of it, out of the instrument. So, I mean, we use this term like mezzo di voce of your, it's kind of like little swells, almost like
Yeah.
hairpins, but every
Yeah.
stroke is like that, where
Wow.
beginning, middle, and end. And so there's, yeah, like a shape in almost every note, which is really interesting. Um, and yeah, but then you can really attack the string, with like short
Uh-huh.
strokes.
Uh-huh.
With the baroque bow, that's very easy to do. Um, yeah, there's just an adjustment. It's almost like something you feel and oh my goodness, yeah, this is completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I had 3 years of violin lessons at VCU when I was finishing up during my degree. It was
yeah.
through COVID, so I was privileged to be able to take more semesters than I was technically allowed to.
Oh,
So, which was so gracious of Susanna Klein. But I can relate, the feeling of the heavier frog. I can imagine that. I can imagine the non-weighted bow, the curvature and it's I'm sitting here just as you're describing that, really thinking how that must be. So yeah, wow.
yeah.
Um, okay, I'm really excited that I mean, Richmond Chamber Players, I don't know when it was established, but it's become kind of a thing, around Richmond and the Richmond arts scene. And you recently became artistic director, so I'd love to hear a little bit about that and how how it is stepping into that role, and also bit about your vision for the ensemble.
Yeah. Um, I mean, first of all, this has just been really um, fun getting to step into this role and very different because I have always been a performer, the one that just shows up.
Yep, yep.
Everything's ready for
A
you.
lot more to just showing up than showing up, but I get what you're saying.
Right. I mean, but you don't think about everything that goes on, or at least I didn't think about everything going on behind the scenes. Because even at the symphony, there's the musicians, and then there's, whatever is happening on the second and third floors, there's stuff going on up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Richmond Chamber Players was founded in 1974 by Raymond Montoni, and he was the principal violist of the symphony at the time. And it has just been a way over the years, it's mostly been symphony musicians performing during August in the summer, which is a month that we kind of have off in between the end of a season and the start of a new one in September. So it's been a chance for symphony musicians to perform chamber music, and connect in that way. Because during the year, as I said, we're playing orchestra concerts every week,
Right,
multiple a week.
right.
Um, so it's just a chance for us to perform chamber music, and I performed with them for the first time last year, and yes, I just really wanted to have a larger role in the organization, and I want to, I'm bringing in, we're wanting to include more musicians in the Richmond area. Um,
Which
and
made me very happy.
yes, of course, we want to shine a spotlight on contemporary composers, such as yourself. And we were so happy to have the U.S. premiere of Breaking the Walls. It was, you know, truly an honor.
Thank you.
And so highlighting professional musicians in the area and bringing it closer to the community here,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
making it accessible
mhm.
so that I think that a lot of people might not even know what is the classical music chamber scene. I think there are some really great groups in the area, like the Belvedere series,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
MSCVA, as you said. um,
Atlantic Chamber Ensemble.
yes, and Richmond Chamber Players. So
Yeah.
I think just building this community and um, letting people have access to all kinds of classical musical experiences. And I think we're trying to also branch out into different venues in the city,
Mhm.
uh, so that younger people and families can see artists in spaces that they might go to uh, on a daily basis, like museums, coffee shops.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a really exciting idea to integrate more into the city too.
Mhm. I think the symphony does a great job of community outreach in that regard, but they're also still quite large. So, chamber group has is a little bit
It's
more
very unique.
flexible. Yeah,
Right,
a little bit more
right. And
flexible, able to get into places, coffee shops and things like that.
yeah.
And I just want to compliment your it was really impressive how you took this over and how organized you were. One of the many, many joys of performing with all of you was just, you know, being confident with the organization in preparation and how everything was just so smoothly and beautifully done. I just really want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
mean, I understand what's like going into one.
that's true. That's a point. Yeah, yeah,
So, uh, there are things that you want to be in place and you want to feel secure about
exactly,
the
exactly. Yeah,
organization.
yeah.
So,
Um, I'd love to also ask you a little bit about, um, well, I love what you said about the scientific aspect of music early in our conversation. Um, can you expand on that just a little bit? Because I think so many people miss the fact that it is science, it is math, it is a part of our daily functioning. And of course, science and math both are. And people listen to music all the time, but I don't think they really get how foundational, I guess, music and is, and adding the science and the mathematical components to me
mhm,
would help that a little bit.
right. Yeah, because it's not all just fluffy, like I feel this way, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and that's, yep, then you can just convey that immediately. There are certain, like, these are tools that we're working with, and
Mm-hmm.
anatomy that we're working with, and
Hmm.
psychology, our everything that's happening in our brain that we're working with. Um, and I mean, one of the scientific aspects, I think, is the mechanics that go into playing and
Mhm.
how we learn to play. And, um, even if we're trying to figure out how do I want to phrase this, uh, and this passage in the music, and you're thinking, well, how fast am I moving my bow here? And if I need to get to the tip by this point, and then I'm doing this bowing here, it's figuring out the mechanics of all of that. It's almost like you are choreographing. I mean, you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
basically choreographing with the
Mm-hmm.
tools in your hands rather than your entire body, though there are people that if you're performing a concerto and you have cues and in this spot I am going to choreograph this. So yeah, it's the fact that everything is methodical and thought out, really. I mean, I think in the moment when you're performing you have to let go
Yeah.
and kind of whatever happens
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
moment, because everything leading up to that was preparing you for that, because you have ingrained this, these physicalities,
Right.
and also just internal singing. And I mean, mental practice is so valuable as physical practicing, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, that's actually another piece of advice for auditioning, is just, um, you know, closing your eyes and imagining yourself there
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually doing it. Um, so yeah, I think there's just all of that encompasses to me these scientific ways that we are approaching our art.
Yeah.
You know,
And also the physics of sound, like, and especially if you're performing in a small venue in a chamber group or in a dull venue, or, the church where we performed had such great acoustics, but that's not always the case. And then if you're on stage, with a big group of people, or if you're on stage playing a solo, all of those factors, how the sound, how big the room is, all those things have a factor. And I I want to also delve a little bit deeper into mental practice. That, to me, that is such an ambiguous term in a way. I don't think people really know what that means necessarily. What does it mean for you? When you say mental practice, what are you talking about?
uh, to me, it means, like I said, closing my eyes, and envisioning yourself playing your instrument. So it's like you can feel your fingers on the violin. You know what string you're going on. You know what, where you are with the bow. It's like I'm imagining myself playing, except like I'm not imagining the music. I'm not
Okay, I was going to ask you that, is the music in your head too, but
Right. Not the physical, not, I'm not like looking at the notes on the sheet. I'm
uh-huh.
hearing what I want to come out of the violin, and
Yeah,
I'm feeling it
yeah,
physically.
yeah,
Or, it for an audition um example, I would imagine walking out on the stage. There's going to be the carpet that they've taped down to the floor. You're walking down the carpet. There's a stand in the middle of a big empty stage, and you're looking at your, maybe then I would imagine looking at the first excerpt, and then you know, you think of that mind space, and my heart starts racing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can get that. Yeah. I love your description of it because, I've heard so many different ways to do that. Some people say just sit and see if you can remember the score all the way through. And I, it's kind of like reading to me. I'm an audible person. I read books by listening, and because if I sit down with a book, unless it's about music or politics or finance, I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
So that's what was happening when I was trying to envision the score with my eyes closed. I'm like, it just,
Dozing off.
I'm just like, where is it? It went away. Yeah, but I love what you said about hearing it and envisioning yourself performing and doing what you want to do with that sound. That to me is something I can really grab onto when I think
Yeah.
about
It's
mental
like
health.
the physicality of
Yeah.
that you're internalizing. And I don't want to quote something that I don't even have a specific study for, but I feel that I've seen before there are studies done where musicians that have done mental practice, it shows that, and they've done brain scans and things where it activates that part of the brain that thinks you are actually doing it.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
Are stimulating that, whatever you're accessing that part of your brain,
Hmm.
and it's very, very conducive to,
Hmm.
helping you move to that next level of feeling comfortable with a piece of music.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I mean, even on a daily basis, I will just, if I'm driving or if I'm putting the dishes away or whatever it is I'm doing, and I'm imagining that passage from whatever it is that I'm thinking about in that
Yeah.
moment. And
Yeah.
it's like you're kind of playing it. I mean, I imagine myself playing things, just kind of going about life. So that can be an interesting, experiment maybe to just,
Yeah, I love that idea because to me it's an easy way to fold it in and also a second way to do it. So you can maybe sit down and really focus, or if you're just doing while you're doing something else, which can be really valuable in performance, I think, because you're like the Strasberg Institute says, you're being private in a public setting. You're being private while you're doing something else and you have this distraction. So
right.
again, another way to practice for an audition. So yeah.
And sometimes when you're um performing, whether in an audition or on stage,
Mhm.
you'll have thoughts pop up
Of
that will
course.
that will be maybe distracting, but if you've conditioned yourself to keep sort of singing and stay in the moment,
Yeah.
helps just instantly
Hmm.
redirect you.
Hmm.
It's kind of like, how fast can you get
Hmm.
back in the
Hmm.
zone,
Hmm.
instead of
Yeah.
dwelling on, I'm not in the zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
I
you?
actually, I know a lot of people like clean scores, but I actually write a lot of my scores, and those are some of the things I write. I write, breathe, remember just the fingers, all these technical things that Thomas Pentolfi has taught me, so I can remember, relax your shoulders, those kinds of things. I'll actually write those things in the score, especially at a place where like breathe here, take more time, those kinds of things. I don't think that's for everybody probably, but it really helps me. And to me, that's a good practice for mental practice because you're, thinking about those aspects. Um, so I feel like we've talked all around this topic already, but what are special aspects quickly of you of playing symphony playing, excuse me, compared to the special aspects of chamber playing, and what do you love about each?
Yeah, I mean, both. I feel you can't have like a complete musical life without both of them, which is why I love the fact that Richmond Chamber Players is a bigger part of my life now. But symphony playing, I mean, it's unlike anything else because it feels like you are just part of this huge organism, kind of, and and you're, as a violinist, it can be a very different experience depending on where you're sitting in the section, kind of like you get to hear different things. But for instance, for this concert that we're having tonight, I'm right in front of the French horns, and the harp is right behind me, you know, and so it just feels really special to be a part of this just huge I don't even know, organism sounds like strange, but it's like this living, breathing um uh art that's happening, and there are so many people involved, but you all have a common goal, that same purpose, that you are telling this story together.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, you're being directed by the conductor, which also makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're controlling you. They're
Right.
just guiding
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, which is why there are orchestras that, sometimes perform things without a conductor for certain. I remember doing that sometimes, at like summer festivals or something where you don't necessarily need the conductor. I mean, we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like you're part of it's like you're a wave in the ocean or something. I don't know, and you're all moving
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
it's really special.
Yeah.
Um and really powerful. I mean, especially when you're playing huge works. One of my
Yeah.
favorites is Mahler 2. So that was really special when we performed it here
It was indeed.
symphony a few years ago.
Loved it.
And then chamber music, I mean, another aspect of symphony playing as a violinist is that you are part of one big violin.
Hmm.
You're not trying to stand out
Right.
an individual in that situation.
Hmm.
You're blending with your stand partner, you're you're not trying to stand out at all. You're trying to blend with the sound so that it creates like I said, like you're one big violin moving together. And then in chamber music, you get to be a bit of a diva. I mean, especially violinists, I feel.
Which is
you know,
a lovely thing too, you know. It's good to have
right.
both. Yeah.
You get to really your unique point of view is um spot in the spotlight, and you get to make creative decisions, and you get to really intimately work with the people in your chamber ensemble and decide what approach you want to take. I mean, in symphony you really are following, if you're following the instructions from the composer, obviously, and also from the conductor or from your section leader. um so I wouldn't stand up and say, well, actually, I think that we should do it right here, but you can do that in chamber music.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because
also the
it's more collaborative, I guess. It's not as much.
right.
Yeah, there's not a good term. I was going to say instructional, but that's a terrible term. So you, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not. I was thinking like dictated, but also that's not. There's not a good connotation with
No,
like.
no, no, no. Let's see. Okay, I guess contributory to the whole, maybe.
Right, right.
Symphony.
You're part of something much bigger,
Yes,
and
yes.
then
And to me, there's a momentum that you're swept in, which is
yeah,
just glorious. Yeah, yeah.
right.
Okay, I think we redeemed
Yeah,
ourselves.
and
Okay,
then
this has been so fun, and I want to close by asking you. I know Richmond Chamber Players has a concert coming up in October. Is that right? Would you
that is correct.
tell us a little bit about that and the rest of the season? You have concerts being scheduled into the spring as well, or is it just mainly for summer?
Yes, we are. Those are in the works
Okay.
still. This
Mhm.
season, what has been, we're kind of putting it together and seeing how things do and moving forward.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
always have the summer concerts in August, but yeah, we're branching out a little bit because normally we don't do concerts throughout the year. So,
That's what I was thinking, and I was really happy to see that. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
We do have a concert Monday, October 13th. It's at Afterglow Coffee Cooperative. It's over in Scott's Edition. It's a great coffee shop. I think, of my friends and I, it's many of our favorite, like
Yeah,
number
yeah.
one. Um, and they turn into a wine bar in the evening. So
Amazing. I just bought my ticket the other day. I'm really excited.
Oh, amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, so you'll be able to enjoy, selections of wine, and then we have a really unique ensemble, and I think it's going to be beautiful. It's flute, harp, and violin. So I'll be performing my friend Carly Lanham on harp, and another one of my friends, Sarah Haynes, on flute. So we're going to play some French and Spanish selections. There's going to be nice, mix of flute and violin, flute and harp, harp and flute, all the iterations.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I think it will be really fun.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And then there's the first symphony concert of the season, which will probably already have occurred by the time this episode drops. But
that's
um,
right. But then I think we will have another main symphony series concert soon after. I believe it's October 11th or something
yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah,
with Valentina. So that should be great.
exactly. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your hugely busy schedule to sit down and talk with us. And I just think everyone's going to really enjoy listening to your perspective. So thanks again.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so
Yeah.
great to be here and speaking with you, Lisa.
Yeah, it's been really fun. So that concludes our episode for today. Sign up on my website at lisaruthmusic.com so that you'll be notified when new episodes drop every other Tuesday. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.